Welcome to the Space Dreamers podcast, a Sumadre production.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Lift off and the clock has started.
Roger, 0J, and I feel fine. Roger, 0J, and I feel fine.
Greetings, Space Dreamers. Welcome to episode 7 of the Space Dreamers podcast. We are discussing the 5th novel by Clarke. This is episode 7 because we have a couple bonus episodes mixed in there, which if you haven't heard, you should go back and listen to. So we're talking about Earthlight, which is Clarke's, as I said, 5th novel, and it was released in 1957. I hate that I don't know that. Let me just look it up. Hold on. I'm pretty sure it's 57.
I had been wondering about that the whole time that I was reading it, and I kept looking in the front of the book, but the book that I'm reading it out of has tons of stories in it too.
Oh yeah, it's an omnibus.
I was like, I had to read through a paragraph. I couldn't figure it out.
So actually I was wrong. It came out in 1955.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So one interesting thing about that is the cover. So, oops. Here, Amy, just describe this cover.
Oh, I like this cover because it's like illustrates what I was imagining when I was reading it. There are domes. There's a monorail. There are big high cliffs.
What world are we on?
Oh, we're on the moon.
Yes.
And there's Earth.
And what do you
there in the corner?
What do you think about that Earth?
What do I think about this one on the cover?
Yeah.
It looks nice.
Looks wrong. That's not what Earth looks like
What do I
from
say?
space.
Oh yeah, I guess so.
So that's one thing that you have to do. Okay, think about this. Prior to the 1940s or 50s, no human on Earth who was living or had ever lived could tell you what the Earth looks like from space.
That's so crazy.
Yup.
I can't.
You couldn't know. There was no way to know.
I can't imagine that's something we take for granted. I can't imagine.
It would be like trying to explain what you look like in a world without mirrors.
Yeah, you could do a pretty good job, but it would never compare to the actual image you saw
Actually,
yourself.
that is a pat myself on the back. That's a great analogy because you could feel your face, right? You could be like, oh, I have a big nose.
Yeah.
Same way where we can crawl all over the globe and we can map it.
Right.
But do we actually know what it looks like?
Yeah.
No.
Right.
So even as far as it's one of the flaws in, actually it's another great segue because there's another thing that he talks about in that novel. So in the novel, he gets it right. But in the movie 2001, they get it wrong. And so that's one of the few things in 2001 that they get wrong. They do show the Earth from space in the film 2001.
Yeah.
And it's just not right at all. It's just not what Earth looks like from space. That movie came out before we went to the moon.
That's so crazy.
Yeah. So it's like he got in 2001, he got FaceTime,
Right.
but they didn't get what the Earth looked like from space. Right.
Right.
So another thing, let's just go right to it because I mentioned it. So in this novel, remember the scene where the people are at the end where the people are stuck in the ship and they have to get to the other ship?
Okay. Can we just talk about how much I love that chapter?
Why?
I love that chapter. That's the only chapter of the entire book I really enjoyed.
Okay, why? Let's get into it. Why?
Because it was just so, spacey.
Yeah.
Like, it was like I was in an adventure.
Yeah.
Space adventure. It was great.
And
compared to the rest of the novel.
Right. It's like the whole novel is there's the threat of war, but nothing particularly crazy or exciting happens until there is a battle, a kind of a battle scene. But
Battle of
I
Pico
think,
or whatever.
Well, yeah, but I think what you're speaking to is most people anyway are intrigued by danger and needing to be rescued.
Right.
The idea of rescue.
Yeah.
So that is exactly what that chapter is.
Oh yeah.
And that's another reason the novel A Fall of Moondust kind of sticks out in Clarke's bibliography because it's just a rescue story that
Really?
happens to be on the moon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you could take that story and stick it in quicksand on Earth, and it would basically be the same story.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, in that scene,
Yeah.
they go through great lengths in that scene to explain, no, you don't inhale before you go into space, you exhale.
Yeah.
So that's just one of the things. It's not even talked about. It's just a shot of, I don't know if you remember, but there's the moment where David Bowman can't get back into the ship because Hal won't let him.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So he has to expel himself from his pod into the ship.
Yes.
Well, it just shows a super quick shot of him inhaling before he gets launched, and Clarke went out of his way to say, we got that wrong. He should have exhaled.
That's so funny.
Yeah. So I had made a note to mention that, but
Yeah.
So anyway, I thought that was cool. So
Yeah.
Amy claimed before we started that she didn't like the book.
Yeah, I just wasn't a fan.
So
but
just maybe I consider it similar sort of to Sands of Mars and Islands in the Sky. So and you read Sands of Mars.
Yeah.
So what don't you like about this one?
well, I think the first thing is the spy aspect.
Okay.
I was just intrigued at first, but then it went nowhere.
Yep.
Nowhere.
He
And
doesn't
so-
he doesn't discover the leak until the final chapter when the conflict is over.
Yeah, he just seems so lackadaisical about his position as a spy. It was just silly to me. I just
Yeah.
didn't. And then because he was a spy and he had to interview a lot of people, there was a lot of just empty dialogue, I feel between a lot of people.
Yeah.
It was just boring to me.
It's almost another kind of we talked about in other episodes about just an excuse to explain all the space stuff.
Yeah.
It's he has to basically vet all these people
Right.
who are all in different areas of study
Yeah.
on the moon.
Yeah.
So in his interviews, you kind of learn about each of these aspects of what a moon colony would be like.
It was kind of boring though, because all it was astronomy stuff, which is
Yeah.
I understand, they talk about it in the book that, leaps and bounds were made by doing astronomy on the moon outside of the Earth atmosphere without all the interference, but it was boring.
Okay.
I just thought it was boring. It really, I struggled through the midsection of this book. The beginning I was interested because
Yeah.
I was where are we going? And there was a lot of descriptions about the moon and what the colony would be like, and that was really interesting. But then it just went real flat real quick.
Yeah. So I kind of agree. I mean, I don't love this book.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to the one thing that sticks out in my mind about this novel is that it's the only Clarke novel that depicts a battleship, a battle spaceship.
Mm-hmm.
And I find there's an image in this novel that has never left my mind since I read it, and
Really?
it's the image of it, and it's not just you don't just apply it to this novel. It's been done before, so it's when you have a completely black shape
Oh yeah.
against the stars.
Yeah.
So you see the outline of whatever is completely black,
Yeah.
and within that outline is simply the absence of stars.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that image to be so cool, especially when you imagine it as this battle-hardened spaceship.
Yeah.
Like a spaceship designed to fight. It's just totally
Right.
alien to a Clarke novel,
Yeah.
except in this one.
That's neat.
So let's do, I guess, just a quick plot. We can explain what it's about.
Okay.
So basically, your main character's name is Sadler,
Yeah.
and he arrives on the moon. The first chapter is him racing on the monolith across the surface of the moon, and kind of.
The monorail.
Did I say monolith?
Monolith. Yeah.
Jeez. All right.
You're a few novels
Yes,
ahead.
yes. The monorail.
Yeah.
Racing on the monorail across the moon and just explaining. So one thing I did like is how, as I've said before, there's not always good conflicts in Clarke novels.
Mm-hmm.
And there's, like we said in Sands of Mars, there's a little bit of that intrigue with like, okay, there's some secret shit going on. In this one, page 4, I am a spy.
Yeah.
Sadler had been wondering that for some time, but thought it best not to attempt any further explanations. His story had been accepted without question. If he tried to make it more convincing, he would give himself away. He was not a good liar, though he hoped to improve with practice.
You know?
Yeah.
It's nice, but as you said, it doesn't really go anywhere.
Yeah.
Especially, dude, because Sadler is not a main player in the climax.
Right.
He's basically absent.
Yeah, absolutely.
So basically, Sadler is a spy, and he's an accountant.
Yeah.
So his front is that he's there, like, auditing all the things that go on the moon.
Specifically the observatory.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so this novel takes place in a solar system that is colonized and inhabited.
Mm-hmm.
And they're on the brink of war, and simply because it appears that Earth and Moon are one.
Mm-hmm.
All the other colonies, all the other planets and moons are a separate one.
Yeah.
They're basically united. I think they're called like the Federation.
Yes.
And so basically the Earth has all the resources.
Yep.
And all the money.
Yep.
But the other problem I have with this novel, there aren't very many space dreamers. I don't think there are really any.
Yeah.
The only space dreamers would be what I was just about to mention is
Yeah.
the people. One of the issues is that so the opposites are that Earth has all the money and the resources, but all the other colonies have the brains.
Yes.
Because nobody wants to live on boring Earth.
Right.
The smart people want to go off and discover amazing things all over the solar system.
Yeah.
So there's your issue. Earth is losing all of its smartest minds, but they have all the resources.
Yeah.
So there comes basically a war. And it's interesting, too, I liked at the end how you kind of learn that, like, so Earth has all the resources, but because they have all the minds, they have the ability to create that battleship
Yeah.
that moves faster than any other
Yeah.
ship ever invented.
Right.
And totally baffles the resource-rich moon and Earth. And so the reason Sadler's there is to discover a leak. I guess it's found out that someone is leaking information to the Federation
Yes.
from the moon.
Yes.
So his whole job is to figure out who is leaking information to the Federation,
Right.
which basically goes nowhere.
Yep.
Because you don't discover who that leak is until the very end of the book.
Yeah.
And there's also this thing happening with the Nova Draconis or N Draconis.
Yeah.
Which is a star that's really far away that's going supernova.
Yeah.
And it was pretty cool how they describe how at one point it becomes the brightest thing in the sky.
Yeah.
Like besides the Earth when it's lit and the sun.
Right.
And my biggest issue with that is that also doesn't go anywhere.
No.
See, okay, so this is what I think would have made it perfect and what I 100% expected.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to figure out at the end how the leak is being leaked.
Yep.
I assumed that he would have been using the N Draconis, like some kind of radio frequency, something Clarke could have explained, or some light situation.
Right, to bring the two together.
But the two never got brought together.
Yeah, no.
And I do agree. I think that's an issue.
Yeah.
It's like, Clarke, why are you telling... I mean, you just because you want to tell us about supernovas? Is that why this is in this novel?
Yeah, I really don't... it gives them something to talk about.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
But I think maybe Clarke agrees with you. And that's why he never brought back war. He never brought back spies.
Mm.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, you create something as amazing and earth-shattering as Childhood's End. which that's not just my opinion speaking. It's
Yeah.
at the time it was loved.
Right.
And then Earthlight's kind of just this,
Yeah.
you know. And then thinking to the bibliography that comes later,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the next one is The City and the Stars, which is totally different, and a lot of people liked it, and it's totally awesome. And then the one after that is The Deep Range, which is about the ocean.
Ooh.
So Clarke, I feel like maybe he was kind of saying, okay, should I go back to what I was doing before with these like super technical, like, you
Yeah.
know, like this is just how shit works on the moon in the future?
Yeah, right.
And then maybe he decided, let's go and let's explore the ocean. We'll do 2001. We'll do This City and the Stars, which is millions of years in the future, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe that's what he did. I don't know. That's what I appreciate actually about doing this podcast is discovering the chronology.
Yeah.
Like
absolutely.
how did it work out?
Right.
So I did take some notes, and I want to maybe just go through them. Can I have my book back?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I did like, let's see here, page 7.
I almost just opened my book and flipped a page. I was like, we don't have the same book. Like we're in school.
Right. Okay, I like this explanation.
Sadler followed Moulton through the curtains and into the cabin, where the steward was setting out trays for his small company. "Do you always have as few passengers as this?" asked Sadler. "I shouldn't think it was a very economical proposition." "Depends what you mean by economical," Moulton replied. "A lot of things here will look funny on your balance sheets, but it doesn't cost much to run this service. Equipment lasts forever. No rust, no weather. Cars get service only every couple of years." That was something Sadler certainly hadn't considered. There were a great many things he had to learn, and some of them he might find out the hard way.
Yeah, I like that part.
Are you sure?
I did. I like. There were definitely like. I mean, I marked the book. There were definitely some great things that stood out.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was just my overall. It was just my overall. But as
That's
I was
right.
reading it, there were definitely things that I really
Yeah.
enjoyed, and I did like that. And I mean, like that's one of the things that was fun. It was exploring his idea of a fully operational city on the moon.
Yeah.
Like, what is this? Is it Central City? What was the name?
Central.
Centers?
I can't
I
remember.
can't-
Central Intelligence. No, that was the people who sent him.
Yeah.
Central City. I don't remember.
Yeah, but then, like the name of like the city that was like the 7 domes, and
Yeah.
that you could like like the way when he went there, when Sadler went there, and he like described everything that he was seeing, it was like very, very like futuristic,
Right.
And I thought that was fun.
Yeah, I thought. I mean, it's just part of Clarke, dude. Just the hokiness. I remember like when it starts raining.
Oh, see, I loved that.
I mean, it's cool. I'm
You
just
know-
picturing people on the moon, like struggling for survival, and all of a sudden they have to put newspapers over their head and run because it's raining. It's just like, what?
But it was cool how the sky, it was a projected
Yeah.
earthly sky, and then the rain, the way he described it, like just kind of helped like break things up, and then
Yeah.
it had a point. It had a point, which was to settle the dust.
True. Oh yeah.
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 So I just thought like all of that was actually like a really fun sort of
Yeah.
playful. The only thing though that I do sometimes struggle with in his, because this is a second novel I've read, that there's a distinct difference between like Earth Mind and like the Space Mind. And so why, if you were all excited about being on the moon and not being on Earth, would you long for things from the Earth?
I don't know.
Is it just what we're used to?
Well, you could argue that it's like a psychological thing.
Yeah.
But I do agree
Yeah.
that if you willingly leave the Earth,
Right.
I think though it's like a complicated enough future that he's describing,
Yeah.
where some people would have left Earth for money, not
Yeah.
necessarily because they don't want to be on Earth.
Right. Or like the astronomers that are on there. Obviously they're on the moon because that's the best way to
True.
explore the solar system.
Yeah, it doesn't mean they want to leave wherever they're from.
Right. But it's just, it works better if you're on the moon.
Same with, if you think about the city, I mean, he even mentions, like, there are bars at the city.
Yeah.
I think that bartender, like, came to the moon
Yeah, that's a
because he
good
wants
point.
to live, like,
Right.
in 1/3 Earth gravity.
Yeah.
I doubt it. You know what I mean?
But there was a job.
True.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I have no idea.
Yeah.
No, but that's a good point. It's
Yeah.
a very good point. I did mark, let's see, page 18. There's absolutely no way of telling, but it must happen fairly often because at least one star in 10's got planets. So if that's true,
Mm-hmm.
you have to imagine in the last however long the universe has existed.
Mm-hmm.
And again, there's zero way of knowing if this has ever happened or if it's happened a billion times. Imagine how many civilizations, or just life forms, not even civilizations,
Yeah.
like just life forms,
Yeah.
have been engulfed by a supernova in history.
Yeah.
Because it's something like you learn. You know, I feel like when you're a kid, you learn, like, eventually the sun will expand
Yeah.
to, like, the orbit of Mars. So Earth will literally no longer exist in a few billion years.
Yeah.
I think it's 4 billion.
Yeah. When I remember hearing about that in elementary school and, like, having severe anxiety.
Right. I feel like everyone gets to a point where when you learn that, you think about it. Really, you think about it, and
Yeah.
it's crazy. And
Yeah.
I don't know, just to imagine, like, what would that be? I mean, we today obviously don't have to worry about it, but
Right.
and I can't imagine the human race as we know it will exist in 4 billion years. But
Yeah.
if you did get to a point where your evolution, where you were just a regular old life form, intelligent or not, and then all of a
Right.
sudden your sun goes supernova, it's cosmically fucked up.
Yeah.
And at least it's an accident, and the fucking devil
Yeah.
didn't come from the stars and make it happen.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Little childhood's end reference for you. Okay, page 24. I think you'll appreciate this. We got Arthur C. Clarke, the comedian. Sadler was wondering what humorist had stamped "not to be taken out of the lounge" across the shapely lady on the cover of last month's Tri-Planet News when Wheeler came storming into the room. Like, what are you doing, Clarke?
What was that necessary for?
Right? Like, what?
I think I even reread that like a couple times. I was like, what?
Right? It's like, I don't even want to know that. It's just weird. I don't know. I mean, I guess I appreciate it. I chuckle when I read that kind of stuff in a Clarke novel.
Isn't that the same? That's, I believe, the same part where he's describing like the logs that never burn. So
Yeah.
so basically, he's describing like a propane fireplace, which we now have like everywhere.
Right. Yeah, he did make that seem like it was
Yeah.
amazing. That the logs, it was like the
Yeah.
logs will burn always.
Yeah.
Always be the same
It's
logs.
like, yeah, they do that in my living room right
Right?
now.
That's amazing. I did like, because, you know, when you're not on Earth, you obviously have to, like, completely change your perspective. And I really like this passage right here. Not because of what it's about, but because of what it implies.
It is seldom realized that driving on the moon by day is far less pleasant and even less safe than driving by night. The merciless glare demands the use of heavy sun filters and pools of inky shadow, which are always present except on those rare occasions when the sun is vertically overhead, can be very dangerous. Often they conceal crevices which a speeding tractor may be unable to avoid. Driving by Earthlight, on the other hand, involves no such strain. The light is so much softer, the contrast less extreme.
What do you think about that?
Well, I'd like to first say that I think the whole concept of Earthlight is so beautiful.
Yes.
Like I did find myself like every time they used that term, like just like kind of closing my eyes and thinking for a minute what it would be like to be illuminated by the bluey green light of our planet.
Right.
That'd be really neat.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did really like that part. I remember reading that paragraph and pausing for a minute just to imagine how we take for granted, again, our atmosphere, the position of the sun, the position of the moon, how it all works together, and how we see light and shadow.
Right. I think what comes to my mind is on Earth, obviously there's plenty of variances, but on Earth you basically have two light values.
Mm-hmm.
You have day,
Yep.
you have night.
Yep.
This introduces the concept that on the moon you have three light values. You have sunshine, which is daytime.
Mm-hmm.
You have blackness, which is nighttime.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the in-between, which is your whole, like, you are lit by the reflection of the Earth.
Yeah.
Reflecting the sun.
Yeah.
Imagine, so when the sun is shining off the ocean and you're at the ocean, you can't even look at it.
Yeah.
It's so bright.
Yeah.
Imagine like a direct sun, like the sun is shining directly on the ocean.
Yeah.
Imagine you're looking at the Pacific Ocean, and like most of the globe that you are looking at is ocean, and it's just blasting that sunlight back at you.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can, I wonder if you can see it shimmer, like off the waves, you know?
Yeah.
And I would assume the atmosphere too.
Yeah.
I bet it looks crazy.
Yeah.
That's just what I think about when I read that passage. I do like 116. So this part right here.
The relentless hand of the chronometer was scything away the last minutes. Still confident that his ship, encased in its cocoon of night, had not been detected, Commodore Brennan watched the three sparks of his fleet creep along the appointed tracks in the plodding sphere. This was not a destiny he had ever imagined would be his, to hold the fate of worlds within his hands. But he was not thinking of the powers that slumbered in the reactor banks, waiting for his command. He was not concerned with the place he would take in history when men looked back upon this day. He only wondered, as had all who had ever faced battle for the first time, where he would be this same time tomorrow.
Oh, I remember that part too.
I love that passage.
Yes.
And the reason is because
Wait, who is that talking about? That's
don't
the
know.
that's
Just
the
someone who's planning on blowing somebody else up.
No, I'm pretty sure isn't that the commander of the stealth ship that you were talking about?
Well, there is a part that person that is similarly epic.
Yeah.
That does involve that person. When are you talking about the part when the last line of the paragraph is he hoped he hoped that the signal to strike never came?
Yeah, I remember that part too.
Okay. Well, I don't know who this is.
Because this book is definitely divided up into two very distinctive parts, which is the spy wandering around the moon,
Yeah.
and then the battle.
Right.
And it's almost like it's almost like Clarke wrote two separate short stories and was like, let's put these together.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah. Well, there's two separate times in this novel too where I recognize the beginnings of another either novel or story.
Yeah.
Like A Fall of Moondust is in this novel.
Oh,
except
really?
a very short. Remember when the tractor gets stuck? It sinks?
Oh, yeah, I liked
That's
that
a
part
fall
too.
of Moon.
Oh,
That's
really?
A Fall of Moondust. That's what it's
Oh.
about.
Oh.
But what I love about that paragraph, dude, is that it demonstrates that Clarke can't just write profoundly about space. It's such a profound thing to say about war.
Oh, 100%.
Especially because, I mean, you notice in Clarke novels, he mentions World War II often. And it's like, well, it had just happened.
Yeah.
And he was directly involved in it.
Yeah. Right, part of it, yeah.
So to hear someone like that who actually was in war talk about war is pretty profound, especially in a sci-fi novel.
Absolutely.
I just love that line. Again, his ability to talk about amazing, profound things like a supernova, and then to just zoom all the way down to the thoughts in the back of the mind of one person who's about to engage in battle for the first time. Will I be alive at this time tomorrow?
Mm-hmm.
Crazy. I just love it.
Yeah.
What else? I do love page 121. Though he did not know it, he was seeing the Acheron, the only spaceship ever to be built specifically for war. That's a scary thought.
Yeah.
To think about today and even in the future, I would assume the amount of resources and knowledge and money that goes into building a spaceship. You hope that it's not for war. You hope that it's not specifically all that energy and money and resources going into killing something else. Which, I mean, that's pretty much our reality now.
Yeah.
Like, the most money is spent, I would assume, in this country on weapons.
Oh, yeah.
So, it'll probably still be like that in the future.
Oh, definitely.
Which sucks.
Yeah, I think that would be probably a big part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I remember, too, actually, what you talked about in the first episode, I believe, how you were saying, as soon as someone finds something of value in space,
yeah,
this whole peaceful space exploration among nations will change. That's what this novel's about.
Absolutely.
They discover heavy metals on the moon.
Yeah.
So I guess that's kind of an important plot point if you're listening to this.
Yeah.
The reason there is also a secretive thing happening somewhere on the moon, and our characters stumble upon it. Mm-hmm. And that secretive thing is that they have found extremely valuable heavy metals deep, deep underground on the moon.
Yeah.
Which gives Earth its needed edge over the Federation.
Right.
I mean, I think it's kind of assumed in the beginning. Well, it is that the Federation has smarter minds, so they're developing better weapons and better spaceships than Earth ever could.
Yeah.
So this is sort of it's the catalyst for the war. I would assume the person who's leaking information, that's the information that they leaked, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Okay. Remember the very beginning of the book, they talk about the scientists. It's kind of like why they're it's why they're sending Sadler pretty much in the first place. The scientist published a paper, and then he sent information out to his colleagues on the planets and the moon.
Yes.
And they couldn't intercept it fast enough. So they knew that people knew about it. They just had to find out, like, who knew about it and who was helping to pass that information along.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Thank you for that clarification. This episode, like, I don't even know what to say about this book. It's hard, you know? It's like, all right, next bullet.
Yeah, pretty much.
Speaking of next bullet, I have a to-do list, and one of the things on my to-do list is record and advertise things.
Astro Hygiene has developed a new means of taming your mane while working in zero-G. Don't want to shave your head? Sick of all that hair in your face? Get the Astro Hygiene magnetic hair ties that require no buns, no clips, and no fiddling with your locks. Simply attach a few magnetic beads to your hair and it will stay out of your way no matter how much gravity you're under or if there's none at all. Astro Hygiene's new magnetic hair ties are affordable and can be shipped anywhere in the solar system where folks live and work and play among the planets.
I mean, the one thing I will say is, like, it's just cool to see Clarke's depiction of... Well, okay, let's just skip ahead. Like, what did you think about the battle scene? Did that make you more interested, or were you like, come on. I was bored before, I'm more bored now?
It was a high point.
Yeah.
But, again, it's like we got to applaud Clarke on describing a battle scene that's so neutral, if you think about it. They just, like, shoot at one another, and then it's 3 ships. 2 ships go down. The third one runs off, basically with its tail between its legs.
Yeah.
Everyone's made their point, you know?
Yep.
Like, again, like, the Earth through the moon has made its point that, like, we have control over this stuff.
Yep.
But the Federation, who represents the planets, has made their mark saying, well, we are a formidable foe if you mess with us.
Yep.
So we have to all come to an understanding.
Yeah.
Which they do.
Yeah.
Like, so it's like...
It's cool to see the spectacle of interplanetary battle described by Clarke, but you're right. It really amounts to nothing.
And also the fact that it happens on the moon because they spared
The Earth. Yeah.
And it happens on the moon far away from any of the civilization that does live there.
Yeah.
You know,
And
it's
the only people in danger are the people on the moon who are building a weapon.
Right.
Right.
And they do perish. I mean, they did say that. Like that. I mean, that pretty much that mining operation was done.
Yeah, and even
because they both like destroyed each other.
Yeah, and even Clarke makes the point to say there's a monument that now sits there.
Yeah.
And they're not divided by what side they were on.
Right.
It's just a bunch of names.
Yeah.
Like we're all humanity in Clarke's borderline utopia future.
Yeah,
where
totally.
we explore space.
Yeah.
And even he even mentions for the first time in 200 years, war was going to break out. Like we just been living peacefully for 200 years until we find metal on the moon.
Yeah. I will say my favorite part about that that battle scene was the realization that the entire thing was silent.
Oh yeah.
There's a part that I loved. Accustomed though he was to the eternal silences of the moon, Wheeler still felt a sense of unreality in the sight of these tremendous forces striving together without the least whisper of sound. Sometimes a gentle vibration would reach him, perhaps the rock-borne concussion of falling lava, but much of the time he had the feeling that he was watching a television program when the sound had failed.
Nah, that's crazy.
I love it. Like, 'cause so it's like funny because we always, you know, any war movie, you know, we watch or any depiction of actual war, it's loud.
Oh yeah.
It's frightening. It's, you know, it's jolting mostly because of the sound.
Mm-hmm.
And so imagine seeing this crazy battle happening in front of you completely silent.
Yeah. It would be a trip.
Yeah.
Look at that guy. He's creeping. Sorry.
We have a healthy squirrel population around here.
I was just going to say that is a healthy squirrel. He's like as big as my cat Annie.
It's enormous.
So in my opinion, the one problem with that scene is, as I said before, Sadler's not involved.
Yeah, no, not at all.
He apart from science fiction, like your main character should be involved in your climax.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, remember he comes afterwards. He asks to be on the rescue mission to go get the two guys. Because remember they were stranded because of the
sinking into the dust.
Yeah, that thing. So he gets to be on the mission because he wants to like interview them because he thinks that he should because he is a spy.
Yeah.
Like what?
Yeah.
And that's literally the last thing. He says he gets back, he goes to his room, he records it, and sends a message that he, like, of his account because he talked to the guy. That's it.
Yeah.
Done.
You got to wonder, like, what was like the main impetus to write this novel? Like, what was he trying to get across? Did he just want to write a battle scene? Or just describe the moon? Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, just explore the implications of having an us versus them. You know, once we leave the Earth, how's it going to play out?
Maybe just, like a cautionary tale against nationalism in space.
Yeah.
Which he has specifically said that he doesn't appreciate at all. But, it's funny. This isn't really sci-fi, but I thought of it, and I want to talk about it.
Yeah.
What you said about silence in space and, like, watching a battle in silence, I almost feel like it would, like, remove you from it.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of, in the film Greyhound, okay?
Yeah.
It's to imagine at that time, Greyhound being about, during World War II, escorting civilian ships across the Atlantic Ocean and trying to avoid U-boats during World War II. Imagine being on one of those boats. So just take It's reality, but let's just take the actual situation in Greyhound.
Yeah.
Imagine being one of the people just on one of those boats who got to witness the sinking of multiple warships, civilian ships, and U-boats, and not even being directly involved. Imagine when after World War II, let's say, like you would have this obviously horrifying, but also like momentous experience to be able to witness the greatest war basically ever seen on Earth in front of your eyes, and to witness U-boats get sunk, to witness battleships get blown up.
Right, but you're saying, but not being a part of it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Basically, you're basically sitting there going, I really hope this all works out so that I am alive when it's over.
Yeah.
Like I remember because I watched that movie recently. There's a very, I really like a scene where, you know, because the whole thing with that movie is it's like everyone has a job, right? And it's like you just have to do your fucking job.
Yeah, definitely.
As long as everyone does their job, this will work out the way it's supposed to, the way it was designed.
Right.
So one of the things that they have to do is they have to clean off the You good?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm thinking. I'm listening and
so
thinking.
One of the things they have to do is the windshield wipers are frozen.
Yeah.
So the guys, he says, you know, warm, not boiling salt water. They have to like wash it with a cloth to get rid of the ice. And so, but while you see the guys doing that, the commander, Tom Hanks's character, is looking forward at his own ship, shooting at like trying to blow up a U-boat, and it shows the guys scrubbing. They're like totally distracted by it.
Yeah.
They're like scrubbing, but looking back at it.
Yeah.
Can you imagine being in that situation?
No, I can't.
It's like, okay, I have a job to do, but one of the craziest things that has ever happened on Earth is happening literally if I just turn around and look.
Yeah.
Like, that is a fucking strong person to be able to do what you need to do while the whole entire world around you is either crumbling or just stealing all glances.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I often think about people who have jobs that, you know, where they have to act under such extreme external pressure.
Right.
Because I put a lot of internal pressure on myself, but I don't have external pressure.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't imagine.
Well, I feel like, you know, you don't know until you're in it.
Yeah.
I don't know. So that's not super connected. But, it's also kind of connected because you mentioned the sound.
Yeah.
The sound design in that movie is incredible.
Oh, yeah.
And it's because so many sounds are all very loud and happening at once, just like the thunder of war. Just not a thing in space.
No.
You know? It's crazy.
Yeah.
And I do like in that passage that you read how they say the occasional vibration would reach them.
Yeah.
Because that's a thing, like, so if you see in movies, and I'm pretty sure based on like what I've read, that if you're inside a spaceship and say somebody took a hammer and was like hammering on the outside, if you were outside, you wouldn't hear it. But if you're inside, you hear it because there is atmosphere where you are.
Yeah.
And it's vibrating off the metal walls.
Right. Yeah.
I just find that pretty cool too.
It's totally cool.
Yeah.
I think there are definitely some really good moments with where Clarke expresses like his, again, like profound ideas about space and civilization.
Nova Draconis was more than 2,000 light years away. The flash of the detonation had been traveling since the birth of Christ. In that time, it must have swept through millions of solar systems, have altered the inhabitants of 1,000 worlds. Even at this moment, scattered over the surface of a sphere 4,000 light years in diameter, there must surely be other astronomers with instruments not unlike his own, who would be trapping the radiations of this dying sun as they ebbed out toward the frontiers of the universe. And it was stranger still to think that infinitely more distant observers, so far away to them, the whole galaxy was no more than a faint smudge of light, would notice some 100 million years from now that our island universe had momentarily doubled its brilliance.
He's talking about what you said, how when our sun does the same thing that the supernova does.
Right.
Because remember they talk about how far away that really it went supernova because of the way that light
Yes.
it actually went supernova
Millions of years ago.
millions of years ago.
Right.
And so it's wild to think that not only in a billion years or 4 billion years that's going to happen in our solar system, our sun will go supernova, but that if there's life elsewhere intelligent enough to understand what's going on, they won't even know that it happened for millions more years after that.
Even better is to imagine the beings watching it happen are descendants of us. That would be a trip.
That would be such a trip.
Dude, like, honestly, that's a thing. Dude, this is what Clarke does. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, no, this is it right here. That could be our home planet. The N Draconis.
Stop it.
You know what I mean?
You're right.
Because we could have, you know what I mean? Like, we could have come from there.
Yeah.
Because I'm suggesting billions of years from now, the descendants of humankind are still frolicking about the universe. They might not even know that they came from here.
Right.
It's a long-ass time.
I never
You know what I
even
mean?
thought about it like that. Like that we could be, you're right, that like we could be witnessing like the death of our home civilization somewhere. Because we
Yeah.
don't know what happened. We
Right.
know what happened here, but we don't know what happened in other galaxies.
So, have you ever thought about what is, in my opinion, the only true form of time travel? Which is,
What?
so if we developed a means to travel faster than light,
Mm-hmm.
then you could go in one direction away from Earth for a long enough time and then look back at Earth with a strong enough telescope and watch dinosaurs walk around.
Oh, I'm not following that.
Okay, so there's two things in what I just said that don't exist,
Yeah.
so they'd have to be invented first.
Right. Okay.
So what I'm saying is, so you understand that the light that the Earth is giving off right now
Yes.
won't be visible to the next closest star for a long time,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So and that's because of the speed at which light travels.
Correct.
So if you went faster than light
Mm-hmm.
in one direction away from Earth,
Mm-hmm.
and you got past where the present light was currently,
Yeah.
and you looked backwards with a strong enough telescope, you would be looking at the past.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So then if you went far enough and you did your calculations correctly,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you don't have to look at dinosaurs. I just think dinosaurs are cool. So I would look back and watch the dinosaurs roam around the Earth. Get what I'm saying?
I do. This is a hard one to wrap my mind around. I do get it.
I could draw it for you.
Maybe you could draw it for me later. I think that one just needs to sit with me for a while.
Yeah.
That's wild, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. It is wild.
Yeah.
But it would, like I said, two separate things would
Right,
have to be
right.
invented that probably won't ever be invented.
It's like amazing how much thinking about some of this stuff like hurts my brain.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Hurts your brain in a good way or a bad way?
Well, and I mean in a good way, and it's not like I'm trying, because then it's weird because it's not like it doesn't like it's just like to open your mind big enough to allow that idea to sit there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because it's not like I'm not like using my brain to like do smart people calculation things,
Yeah.
but just like, I don't know. It's so wild.
Yeah, man, it's a trip.
Yeah. And Clarke does it every single time.
Okay, so that's a perfect little segue to what. Okay, so the cover of this book has what I have tried to explain many times, but the cover of this book has a quote that explains what I love about Clarke
Yeah. What is it?
in a very profound and succinct way. He thinks at once like a poet and an engineer, and writes like an angel.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you'd have to throw in something to do with space into that quote.
Right.
Like maybe engineer, like a space engineer or something.
Yeah.
Physicist. But like that's Clarke.
Yeah.
Writes like an angel. It's kind of cheesy, but it's like,
Yeah.
but he's so good that there's no non-cheesy overused word to
Right.
describe it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It doesn't say anything on there about plot involving spies.
Right.
That's the only downfall occasionally.
Yes, I agree.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, as much as I did not enjoy this book as an overall like novel experience, there were so many times that I stopped and I thought about it, or I have a vivid, he painted a vivid picture using his words of what the moon would look like and what being alive in that imaginary place would be like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have two more notes that I want to get to. I find Clarke in this novel he's almost actively anti being on Earth. Like, I'll just read you the section. He says, the vehicle which had brought him from the spaceport might well have been the one that had carried him across the Sea of Rains a quarter of a lifetime ago. A quarter of a lifetime, that is, if you were a citizen of the moon and could expect to see your 120th birthday. But a full third of a lifetime if you spent all your waking and sleeping hours fighting the gravity of Earth. It's like, excuse me, Clarke. We were born here. We're not fighting. I mean, we fight to survive, certainly, but to suggest that staying on Earth is like reducing lifespans.
Yeah.
It's like...
It is tough because we've talked about it before that we're symbiotic with this planet.
Yeah.
And so it's a beautiful idea that we would be better off in another place.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can't help but acknowledge that this is our home.
Yeah. I mean, I have to fight Clarke on this one. I have to say, listen, Clarke, I disagree, brother.
Yeah.
Like, nah, man. We're not fighting. We are... When we're in space, we're fighting.
Yes,
much
exactly.
harder.
Yes,
and
definitely.
more futile, in a more futile way.
Right.
I find that funny.
Yeah.
Did you notice in the beginning? And he didn't stick to it, but he mentions it in the beginning how people on the moon would speak differently from people on Earth.
That's in the beginning because I thought it was in the end.
Well, in the beginning, no. In the beginning, the first person he talks to, he mentions it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he says that they speak in like little clipped sentences. They don't always speak in full sentences. And he says I think he suggests that it's just a natural evolution of where you live, but it's kind of also, I guess maybe the joke would be that they're saving air.
That's funny.
By speaking more, like in incomplete sentences.
Because at the very end, when he meets the boy to take him to the
guy's room.
Yeah, the guy's room. And the first thing the kid says is, "We're going."
Yeah. So
he makes mention of like how that's like the way they talk.
Yeah. So I read last year a novel by Robert A. Heinlein called "The Moon is a Harsh Mistress," and it's all about. It's basically the story of America fighting for its independence from Britain, but America is the moon and Britain is Earth. Mm-hmm. So anyway, it's way further in the future, and you actually have to read this weird version of English.
Oh, weird.
Any character in the novel who's born on the moon
speaks
very strangely. And when I first started reading, in my mind, I was just like, I don't know if I can get through this novel if they're going to talk like that.
Yeah.
But you kind of get used to it. But it's just a cool acknowledgement. So basically, like, I didn't appreciate how he didn't stick to it in this novel. Not only that, I firmly believe that your experience, like how you experience things, informs whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And as much as I don't really like that novel, The Moon is a Harsh Mistress, it did that so much better. And it fully committed to it.
Right.
So when I read it in Earthlight, I'm like,
Yeah, like who cares?
It's like
What?
Heinlein did it like better.
Yeah,
And
like, why even include it?
Made it a focal point of the novel.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm not knocking Clarke for it, but for me personally, it's like been there, done that with Moon is a Harsh Mistress.
Yeah. There was another thing that came up was, do you remember the bit where he talks about like the him having kids with his wife?
Yeah.
That whole paragraph was so strange. It was like,
well, I don't actually know what you're specifically referencing.
Well, I was like, why are we even like talking about it? It was this bizarre insert, I thought.
Tell me.
Like most couples on the overpopulated planet that swam before his eyes, speaking of Earth, they had waited to prove their compatibility before embarking on the adventure of parenthood. In this age, it was a definite social stigma to have children before one had been married for several years. It was a proof of recklessness and irresponsibility. They had both wanted a family, and now that such matters could be decided in advance, had intended to start with a son.
Yeah, that was weird.
Then Sadler had received his assignment and realized for the first time the full seriousness of the interplanetary situation. He would not bring Jonathan Peter into the uncertain future that lay ahead. Like, what in the world?
Why name it?
I know, the whole thing. Like, that's what I mean. Like, the whole thing was so strange. He does, though, continue, and it gets like a little bit more profound. In earlier ages, few men would have hesitated for such a reason. Indeed, the possibility of their own extinction had often made them even more anxious to seek the only immortality human beings can know. But the world had been at peace for 200 years, and if war came now, the complex and fragile pattern of life on Earth might be broken into fragments. A woman burdened with a child might have little chance of survival. Like, that whole paragraph is just so bizarre.
I agree.
Like, what? I mean, it's interesting, but it's like it's a thought into itself. It
Right.
doesn't belong in this book.
I agree.
It's bizarre, and I feel like there were a few other moments, like the one that like the language, talking about the language of the moon. It just didn't belong.
I agree.
Yeah.
If he had committed to that, and every
Right.
time he talked to someone, they had a distinct speech pattern
Right.
that was different. Okay,
Right.
cool. Like, it's part of the novel.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you just mention it, you don't
Yeah.
commit to it.
Yeah, and like that has no bearing on any of the other like pieces of the plot, any other conversation that he has with anyone else.
Yeah.
It's very strange.
You don't even have to mention that he has a family. I mean, you can, and I don't mind that they do. But then,
Right.
when you get into
Yeah.
it was weird. I mean, sometimes when you read a sci-fi novel and they mention something that doesn't exist now, you're just thinking, oh, I guess it's world building. It's just,
Right.
I guess in the future they can decide what gender.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't care.
Right.
It's like, I'm more interested in the mystery plot, which that doesn't even really get much attention. You know what I mean? So why are you telling me about Jeanette? I remember his wife's name, Jeanette.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's bizarre. I mean, I guess one could say maybe it showed some sort of like allegiance and connection to Earth, but you're a spy for Earth anyway. So it's like you don't even need that.
True.
It's very strange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Clarke ain't perfect.
No.
I've said it a couple times in this podcast. I'm not going to just shower praise on the dude.
Yeah.
Till we get to 2001. But I'm not going to just shower.
exactly.
No, I'm just kidding. So, but anyway. All right. So, Amy didn't like the novel. That's okay.
Yeah.
I would say it's okay. It's reminiscent of Islands in the Sky and Sands of Mars a little bit. And I would say the only reason to read it would be if you're super curious about Clarke's depiction of a space battle.
And even then, you gotta be more interested in the moon.
Yep.
Because the space battle is what, like
It's a decent climax.
10 pages?
Yeah. But 10 pages out of a 150-page novel is,
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna start ranking these books. So
Oh.
that's just how I roll.
You have a list?
Yes, I'll read it to you. So 5 novels so far. At the bottom of the list, which one do you think is at the bottom?
The first one.
Yep.
Prelude to Space.
Prelude to Space, then Islands in the Sky,
Yeah.
then Earthlight,
Yeah.
then The Sands of Mars, then Childhood's End.
Yeah.
And that was the thing. So, like, while I was reading this, I feel like maybe you're kind of a little bit influencing me, and I don't mind admitting that.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't decide whether I should put Earthlight above The Sands of Mars or not. And I think it's just because nothing really, like, I couldn't really remember The Sands of Mars before I started reading it.
Mm-hmm.
But when I started reading Earthlight, like I said, distinctly,
Mm-hmm.
since the first time I read this novel, I've always remembered that black shape
Right.
against the stars
Yeah.
being a battleship.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's just why I always imagine, like, I always just imagine, like, it must be better if I remember it. But no, I think Sands of Mars is a better novel.
Yeah. I've talked about it before when I read books. Like, you can read an entire book and really enjoy it and really like it, but you end up you coming away with it with only one thing.
Yeah.
And, or like sometimes I can like close my eyes and I can remember scenes that are from books, but I can't remember what the book was about,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And so I don't think it's a good or a bad thing. I just think that like sometimes you can remember something because it left such an impression.
Right.
But then, you know, you go back and you're just like, I don't know about this.
Yeah. Plus, I'm a different human.
I know.
I probably read that like 8 years ago.
Yeah, that is an interesting thing. Like the fact that I keep forgetting that you're rereading these, that you've already read them.
Yeah.
You know, this is my first experience with it, but not yours.
No.
Yeah.
So anyway, well, the one thing I did want to say that it's interesting because Earthlight falls right between the epicness of Childhood's End and then the also epicness of City in the Stars. As I've said, actually both Childhood's End and City in the Stars are very different from each other.
Yeah.
And they're both very different from all the most of the Clarke novels.
Yeah.
So it's just funny that this one that kind of retreads the old ground of the first 3
Right.
is stuck right in the middle of these 2 like epic,
Yeah.
like philosophy filled
Yeah.
sci-fi, super far in the future stories. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, all right, let's get into Terminator 2. So
T2.
yeah, T2
Judgment Day. Yeah.
Hi, Space Dreamers. You know the deal. Ad break.
Interplanetary pet food is the new rage across all inhabited worlds. Want to bring Fluffy or Mittens to the moon, but can't get your furry friend to keep their kibble down? Interplanetary Pets has perfected a cat and dog food with anti-nausea meds baked right in. Buy now and take your pets with you on your astro adventures. Head over to our website to see video footage of the first ever dog to play fetch on the moon. It's the cutest darn thing in the solar system. Man is leaving Earth for the stars. Don't leave man's best friends behind.
We talked in episode 2 all about the original Terminator, which I rewatched over the summer and realized how it's this masterpiece of science fiction. So I told Amy she should read it. She should watch it. So she watched it, and we discussed it, and we both love it. A couple facts about Terminator 2. At the time it was made, most expensive movie ever made.
Really?
Yes.
I could see that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It also is the first movie to feature throughout the movie, heavily feature CGI.
Yeah.
When you see him in his, like when he morphs into metal, liquid metal, that's the first time people witnessed really good computer-generated images in a movie. And not just in one scene. Like,
yeah, throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, it is a major plot point.
Yeah.
And for instance, The Abyss, also directed by James Cameron, is technically the first movie to have like CGI as we know it today, but it's one scene.
Yeah.
And then it's at the very end.
Right. Yeah.
So, but like I said, this one it's featured heavily. And then comes, Jurassic Park 2 years later, which is basically a similar breakthrough, because what you're generating via a computer is life forms, like animals,
right?
Whereas in this one, it's a thing that doesn't, it's a thing that exists, liquid metal and metal, but it's, like, it's not like living tissue that they're trying to reproduce,
right? Yeah.
Which is obviously a totally different thing.
Yeah.
So, what did you think? Terminator 2.
I didn't like it.
Really?
No.
Okay, dude. Me either.
I don't like it,
dude. To come from the Terminator, it's just an action movie.
Exactly. That's the problem. Is that standalone, totally decent film.
Oh yeah,
like totally decent. But coming from that first one, it's trash, man.
Dude, I like that you're saying that.
Like,
because I thought I was going to be sitting here. Because, dude, no one wants to hear anyone say that Terminator 2 is bad. It's widely considered one of the greatest sequels of all time.
Yeah, you've mentioned that.
And it is like, it's a good movie, but I mean, I'm just glad the first Terminator is far superior.
Yeah,
so much better.
Yeah.
Like, what? Do you have any like specific thoughts or like?
Well, we can, like, you brought up CGI, and I was thoroughly impressed by that.
Yeah,
like they do an incredible job.
Yeah.
The liquid metal concept is just so cool, and like all the different visual things that they do with it is really neat. I love the concept of like how he can replicate things, but not like that he has to touch, but not like there's like one part where he's like, can he just turn into like a bomb and blow things up or something? He's like, well, he can't do that. So like, but he can when all like the blades come out of him and like different things like that. And that one scene where he's like clawing on the car with those like crazy claw arm things, like that stuff was awesome. Yeah. So like as an action movie, it's definitely cool. And it works, and then Sarah Connor, like, she's awesome.
Such a badass.
Like, totally awesome. Like, such an incredible character.
Yeah.
Like, she's just fantastic.
Dude, the first time she shows up and she's doing the pull-ups on her own bed.
Yeah, in the mental hospital.
Yeah, and the guy opens the thing, and her first line, and of course, like, that amazing shot where she, like, turns around and, like, the bangs are over her eyes, and she's, like, breathing heavily from exercising. She goes, I forget what his name is, but she's like, Doctor whatever, how's the knee?
Yeah.
And he turns out he's like, she stabbed me in the kneecap with a pen a couple weeks ago. It's like, dude, okay, once again, even though we know this character, this is another example, like in Terminator 1, of just characterizing a character in less than 5 seconds.
Yes.
Like I said with the cop in the first one. In this one, it's like, just you see her, and then she stabbed me with in the kneecap with a pen. It's like, whoa, like, this is crazy.
Like, oh, watch out for her.
Yeah. And so how do you feel about completely changing the Terminator into a good guy?
It's like the number one reason why I didn't like it.
Right.
But it's weird at the same time. I totally understand now why people love Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Really?
Yeah, because he was so good in that movie.
Yeah.
Like, he's a different kind of good in this movie. Like, I thought he was so good in the first one.
Yeah.
But it's a different kind of good. Like, he's just, like, so amiable. Like, even though he's supposed to be, like, this badass killing machine. Like, I don't know. Like, I just, because I had never seen this movie before. Okay. And so I think, I didn't really get what the whole, like, Arnold Schwarzenegger thing was about. Like, I didn't, but like... Okay,
well, hold on. Zip time out. Y'all have you seen the movie True Lies?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Because, never mind. That movie's amazing. Also directed by James Cameron.
Oh, okay.
And he's the main character.
And
it's such a good movie.
Yeah.
Did it come such a good movie.
Before or after?
After. I think 94.
Yeah. So it's like, I just like... I don't think I ever really understood the Arnold hype.
Yeah.
But like watching this, I'm like, oh, I totally get it because he's great. He's fun.
Did you see
awesome.
Did you see that part I posted on my Instagram story where she goes, how much do you know about Dyson? And he just does. He's like, I have detailed files.
Yeah.
It's like what? It's like that. Okay, like I get you're a robot, and that was like
Right.
a robot movement, but
Yeah.
it was such a character thing.
Yes,
you know?
yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
Or like, and how do you feel about Eddie Furlong, Little John Connor?
He's so annoying.
Right.
And why doesn't he want anyone to die? Like, I didn't get that.
Because he's John Connor, dude. He's a leader. He's a leader of the human race. He's like, you know.
I don't know. I thought it was cheesy.
Well, it is cheesy. It turns the Terminator into Batman.
Yeah.
Because like Batman doesn't kill.
Yeah.
And he goes out with this stupid friggin' minigun, and it's like no one dies. It's like it's just an excuse to like
Yeah.
have chaos and violence
Yeah.
without also suggesting that you just depicted the deaths of like hundreds of police officers.
Right.
It's like you can't have your cake and eat it too. I guess you
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
if it's about a friggin' robot.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
There were just so many things that happened in like that. I felt like they were just reusing it. I mean, didn't you say at some point like this starts exactly the same way as the first one?
No,
It ends.
So 1 and 2 end the same. 2 and 3 start the same.
But this started the same too, like with them both
Yeah, but
showing up at the same time, and you like think that they're racing to.
What I mean by that is how he gets his clothes.
Oh.
He goes in. I mean, it's a different kind of bar in the third one, but he goes into a bar and he gets the same exact outfit.
Oh, I get it.
So, dude, that's a problem with sequels, especially like nowadays, because we're like always referencing old shit.
Mm-hmm.
Is like self-reference and fan service. It only goes so far.
Yeah.
So I could sit here. We could just sit here and like if we weren't on a podcast, I would have been like, "Did you like Terminator 2?" And you would have been like, "No." We would have talked for like a couple minutes. But since this is a podcast, I'm going to tell you specifically where Terminator 2 goes off the rails for me.
Oh, good. Okay. I want to hear.
It's when he takes the sunglasses out of the guy's pocket when he first gets his clothes. Why do you think that's problematic?
I do not know.
Because there's literally no reason for him to have sunglasses.
Oh, yeah.
Why does he put on sunglasses in the first one?
To cover his robot eye
Exactly. Why does he put on sunglasses in the second one?
for no reason at all.
Because he wore them in the first one.
Yeah. To look cool.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And as dope as that scene is with
yeah.
that fucking music,
Yeah.
best use of that music ever, dude.
Right.
Like, it's cool. And like as soon as he puts on the sunglasses, as
Yeah.
soon as he like threatens a human for like no reason,
Yeah.
the only reason he threatens those people and beats the shit out of them is it's just, once again, like the first one. I'm this fucking broken record, dude. I have a mission. In order to complete my mission, I need clothes.
Yeah.
So like you're going to do whatever you need to do to complete your mission.
Right.
If that means killing a couple of people or
Yeah.
whatever, beating the shit out of them, burning them, shooting them, breaking their arm or whatever the hell he does,
Yeah.
then he's going to do it.
Yeah.
Because there's more at stake. No reason for the sunglasses.
Nope.
And I mean, yeah, dude, it's not a bad movie, but... And okay, the best part about Terminator 2 is the arm from the first one that Dyson has and that Skynet is using. That's
Yes.
science fiction.
Yes.
Everything else is action.
Right. You're totally. I forgot about that because that was when I did like start like thinking because the movie does not. I thought a lot with the first one.
Oh,
the
yeah.
second one, mindless.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Except for you're right that part because then, so basically it's like you start in with that like time travel cycle thing again. Where like, would the apocalypse have been possible if he hadn't time traveled and left his arm?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So and I think that's another problem with this movie, and something we said about the first one is that the first movie is a perfect little concise little movie.
Yes.
That has time travel, but all the loose ends with the time travel
Yep.
are tied up.
Yep.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
With this one, you just fall right into the issues with time travel stories.
Yep.
And it's not hugely distracting because, like we said, it's just an action movie
Yeah.
with good action scenes, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I think there's something to be said, too, about older movies that had big budgets that had to prove their worth These
Yeah.
days, you don't have to do that. Like
That's a good point.
in this movie, it's like what you said in that all the different ways he uses, the bad Terminator uses his powers.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they had to be carefully chosen because of the limits of the technology.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's why Jurassic Park still looks good today.
Yeah.
Is because it's like, we got to get this right.
Yeah.
Because if we don't, it's going to be trash and it's
Right.
not going to look good and no one's going to buy what we're trying to sell here.
Mm-hmm.
So with this one, it's like the ability to just not show everything. I feel like what I'm saying now has just been said before and it's very vague, but I get the sense. I think too, like the best movies are the ones that, when it comes to CGI, are the ones that you can't tell if what you're looking at is CGI or in the room with the actors, a physical, practical effect.
Yeah.
And that's what's so good about Jurassic Park, because you have the CGI T-Rex, but you also have that ridiculously intricate
Yes.
and well-crafted
Yes.
model of the T-Rex. And they are so perfectly blended.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
And so in this movie,
yeah.
like when he makes blades, obviously that's CGI. But then
Yeah.
the next shot, it's a real piece of metal just like attached to the ends of his arms.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and again, I love bringing up this movie. What makes, in my opinion, Prometheus stand out in the modern CGI fest that we live in is the perfect blend in that film of CGI and practical effects and practical sets. To this day, when I watch Prometheus, it's not that I can't tell what's CGI and what's practical. It's that I don't ever think about it.
Yeah. Yep.
That world, the set design, production design, CGI, everything is just so perfectly blended in that movie.
Yeah.
The plot is all kinds of fucked up and whatever, dude, but like visually
Yeah.
and from like sound design, everything, dude, that movie just blends it all. Like I can't, like the part at the end with like the big squid thing that's like fighting the space jockey. It's like everything in that scene has weight.
Yeah.
And that's a problem with CGI. A lot of things in CGI, like they have no weight to them.
I totally
You know what I
agree
mean?
with you. Yeah, absolutely.
So I think like the sparing use of the CGI in that movie, like I don't know, like it's cool. Like remember when he walks through the bars in the mental institution?
Oh, yeah.
It's like he only ever does that once,
Right.
and it's just cool one time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know.
No, yeah, you're right. I actually really like that part because like the gun, like just a little detail of like the gun getting caught.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I love it. It's
Yeah.
just like because it's not a part of him. I just
True.
Yeah, I really like it.
Yeah.
He was the best part
Who?
for me. The other Terminator, the bad
Yeah, he's
Terminator.
good. Yeah, he's good.
so good.
Dude, the way he runs.
Oh yeah.
Like, how do you run in a way that just
Yeah.
makes you look A, wicked fast, and
Yes.
B, like you're not human.
Yes.
Like you're a robot.
I really loved it, and I love how he even like though it's like a gimmick, but like I love how that he
Is
like,
a cop.
Yeah, that he's a cop. Like,
Yeah.
I just love it. It just
Yeah.
like worked so well.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Well, that's a thing too. It's almost like a lot of things that happen in that series, like they happen, like it's so perfect that they happened.
Mm-hmm.
Like I appreciate that they happened because without it happening, you wouldn't have a movie. You know, but it's like how, like we said in the first one, how Kyle Reese runs into a closed clothing store when he's naked.
Right.
You know what I mean? And how the first person to come investigate, you know, this whatever electric ball that the
Yeah.
blonde guy showed up in
Yeah.
was a cop
Right.
who has all the resources required to find a human
Exactly.
in a city.
Yeah.
Like, I don't fault it, but it's like, oh, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Because, like, back in the day, I used to watch a movie as a kid on TV, and, like, you don't always catch the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would wonder, I'd be like, why is he a police officer?
Yeah, I always wondered too until I saw this.
Yeah, and then you see the origin. You see the origin, and you're like, I mean, it makes sense, but very lucky that he became a police officer.
Yeah. Oh,
You know what I mean?
totally. Yes.
Yeah.
It's fun talking about CGI. I think it's like an important part to whenever we talk about science fiction movies, because it's used so often, you know, like I mean, can you even have a space movie without a science fiction movie, like without some kind of special effects?
Oh, I was going to say, if you say CGI,
oh,
swear
no.
to God, 2001.
No, yeah,
hello.
no, that's just, but like, you know, like special effects, like, because special effects are a wide range of things, you know, as opposed to just, you know, like a movie about a regular relationship of people on Earth. You don't need anything.
No, you're right. You know, there must be one out there, and I would assume it would be a testament to how good this sci-fi concept is if you could pull that off.
Probably.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's got to be one. Like, maybe, have you seen that movie, Her?
Oh, yeah.
I don't think there's much CGI in that, or there's not much special effects. It's just him and a voice. But that is a super inherent sci-fi concept.
Yeah.
You know, like AI.
Yeah. I was going to say there's also Primer. Pretty sure there are no special effects in that.
But that's
it
like,
takes place in a storage locker.
True. Dude, there's got to be. I'm trying to think. I'm going to be thinking about that. Like a legit science fiction movie with like limited or no special effects.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you'd say about Terminator? We can probably wrap this up pretty soon here.
Yeah.
Do you want to see the third one?
No, I do not. At this point, I don't care.
Okay, well, then I'm going to tell you what happens.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of cool.
Really?
Terminator 3 is not a good movie.
Okay.
So it's James Cameron wasn't involved.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen reports or heard and read on the internet the only reason Arnold is in it is because they asked him, and he was like, well, I don't want to do it if James Cameron's not involved. And so he went to James Cameron and said, should I do this? And James Cameron said, yes, but ask for $23 million.
Oh.
And that's what he asked for, and it's what he got.
Wow.
Yup.
Wow.
Or I don't know if that is even accurate, but it's like over 20 million. Like the budget of the film is like 150 million. It's like 20 went to one guy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
He went to the one guy who plays the title of the movie, but still.
Yeah, you know.
And like he got like a percentage of the gross and all that shit.
Wow.
It's a bad movie. But and that's a fucking 2003 time capsule, dude. Guess who plays John Connor?
Who?
Nick Stahl.
Oh my God, who is that?
He was like famous for a while there, and now I think he one of those, like, I think he like started, I don't know, he just went off the rails. Like, I feel bad saying that because I liked him as an actor, but I don't know, I think like his wife reported him missing or something. He's one of those, like, he went, you know, he's one of those actors who like
went crazy after he was famous.
But anyway, he plays the yellow guy in Sin City. He was in an HBO show.
Oh.
He was in an HBO show that was considered good, I'm pretty sure, called like Carnival.
Oh, I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it. Okay.
He plays John Connor.
Okay.
And it's so in Terminator 2 they like prevent Judgment Day, right?
Right.
So what's so cool about Terminator 3 is that his whole idea, basically, and again, it's Terminator is a good guy. He's there to save John from another bad Terminator, which is like a girl.
Oh my Lord!
And so, John is like, how can you be here? Why are you here? We ended Judgment Day. You shouldn't exist.
Yeah.
And Arnie's like, Judgment Day is inevitable.
Oh.
You merely postponed it.
Oh.
And like, as much as that's clearly just like, we need a third movie, so let's just say it got postponed. It's a cool concept.
Yeah.
Because guess what happens at the end of Terminator 3?
What?
The bombs fall.
Oh.
The world gets nuked.
Oh, wow.
And it's just... And the cool thing, too, is that it's kind of a surprise ending in that the Terminator leads John Connor and his future wife, because that's kind of cool, actually, too. Like, the movie's cheesy as hell, but the concepts are kind of cool. So basically... the Terminator gathers up John, and Claire Danes is in it, and she plays a girl who he claims that they will eventually get married, and that she is the one who sent him back in time.
Oh.
So they're like a couple of to lead the future or whatever. So he leads the two of them to a bunker, which they are under the impression while they're going there that they're going there to stop Judgment Day, when in reality they're going there so that they can live.
Yeah. Oh,
And
wow.
he doesn't tell them that that's where he's bringing them.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would have been thoroughly happy having just seen the first movie
Yeah.
and leaving it at that.
Yeah.
Because I loved so much that it was a complete little tidy package.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. And it's so weird, too, now because I used to love Terminator 2.
Yeah.
And to go back and just, no. And that's the thing, too, is, sorry, it's like you said, watching Terminator 2, you're like, well, shit, he's a good guy? I don't like that. Back in the day, all I ever did was watch Terminator 2. So when I ever finally was like, oh, there's a Terminator 1, it's from the 80s, and I watched
that's so
it,
funny.
I was like, he's a bad guy? What?
Yeah.
There's only one Terminator? Like, what is this crap?
That's so funny.
But now, I don't know. I guess I'm just more
Yeah.
mature. I don't know. And I realize it's just
always it's always all about perspective and
Yeah.
where you are and where your mind is at and all that stuff.
better. Yeah.
I mean, it's just the same as, when we read these books. If I probably would have enjoyed Earthlight so much more if I read it when it came out, because we hadn't done half the things that we've done,
True, yeah.
And
Yeah.
to me, reading a book about anything that goes on the moon is just kind of boring.
Oh, yeah. Especially like how there's like plants on the moon in this book.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, I mean,
You know?
it's just
Probably in the 50s that was like, oh, I bet there really is.
yeah.
And now we're like, no.
Or maybe there could be, but no,
Yeah.
it's just So it's definitely, I think, when it comes to all this stuff, it has so much to do with what's
Yeah.
going on.
All right, so before we end this, can I tell you super quick about Monster Hunter?
Yeah, what is that?
You don't know what it is?
No, is it a movie?
It's just yet another terrible movie based on a video game. They just
Oh,
need to
yeah.
stop. Just stop with the video game movies. So, like, all right, first of all, poor Mila Jovovich.
Oh,
She just, like, when was the last time she was in a good movie? That time she cameoed in Zoolander? So, she's the star. Monster Hunter is a Japanese video game where you're like, it's like fantasy, this like fantasy world or whatever, where there's just giant fucking monsters and
Yeah.
you fight them. But what makes the game unique is that you're in a world, right, with like a bunch of little enemies.
Yeah.
But then they're in the world, inherently tied to the world and how it works is one big huge monster.
okay.
Big, creative, dragon-looking, whatever, crazy, weird-looking, cool monsters. But so obviously you can't take on the big monster when you first arrive in this world.
Right.
So you have to go around and you have to do all kinds of little missions and gather things and kill other monsters. And eventually you learn through earning items or knowledge or whatever that, like, okay, even though that thing's massive and could kill you with one blow,
Yeah.
you're a little tiny, there is a way to defeat it.
Okay.
So what's cool in the movie is basically it starts on Earth, like not in the monster hunting, world. And it's like army rangers, and she's like the head of them, and they're driving, looking for their buddies who disappeared, and they're like in the desert, and they're driving, and then they get to like this place where the tracks of who they're following just vanish, and there's nothing. So they just keep driving, looking, and then this storm comes, and there's like lightning, and then they come out, and they're in like another world. They're in like another dimension.
Oh, wow.
And so then they're in Monster World, the place where the monsters live.
Yeah.
And when they first get there, they realize like there's this big ass monster like in the sand.
Yeah.
They're like kind of in a place that's kind of like surrounded by sand. And if you touch the sand, the monster knows where you are.
Oh.
So if you go on the sand, you're just going to die.
Oh.
So they're running with that thing, and they realize, okay, we can't kill that thing. What do we do now? So they go off, and they go to this little cave, and there's like big, huge spiders. So that gives you a shitty action scene that you have to sit through. And but they learn that the spiders are venomous. And so then she goes off. At one point, literally everyone dies except for Mila Jovovich. So it's her, and then she meets this guy who has no name. Like, if you look up the credits of the movie, he's the hunter.
Yeah.
And he's just this badass, really badass dude. And, like, I do appreciate, too, that he's not, he doesn't act like any culture on Earth.
So is he from Monsterland?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. He didn't just end up there
No.
they did. Oh, okay.
Which is something that, like, I thoroughly hate the movie Rogue One because there's a samurai in it. And not only are samurai from Earth, they're from a very specific place.
Yes.
In a very specific time.
Yes.
On a very specific planet.
Yep.
And yet there's a dude in Star Wars who acts like a samurai.
Yeah.
And it's gross, in my opinion.
Okay,
I
yeah.
don't need that shit.
I hear you.
Okay. So it's cool that this dude, they never ever speak each other's language through the whole movie. Why am I talking about this movie like it's good?
Because I'm kind of intrigued.
What the fuck? Okay. So, and it's so the back and forth jokes are like, we don't understand each other's language, and like they like pull pranks on each other.
In Monsterland, it sounds like a place you wouldn't want to pull pranks on people.
Well, you're right. Well, so at one point they like. So, well, let me get back to the point of why it's kind of cool is that it is like a video game.
I figured that was where you were getting at. Yeah.
Because her and the hunter realize we need to get past that big ass monster in the desert, but we can't.
Right.
And so then the hunter, through miming and just trying to explain whatever, he explains like kill the monster with the monster. Use a monster to kill monster.
Oh.
So they go and I can't even remember. I probably fell asleep during this scene. But they somehow get some fucking poison, some venom from the spiders, and they put it on their little spears and their swords.
I gotcha.
And that's how they kill. But that's exactly what you do in video games.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
That's neat.
so it's like a fetch quest.
Yeah,
But
it's like an organic way of figuring out your environment.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so after they kill that monster, then they go, and dude, mind you, we're like over an hour into the movie and they've killed one monster. So then, but then they get to this place where it's like an oasis. They find like water, and there's like plant eating monsters. Well, so they get there and she's like, I'm scared. And he like takes up grass and he's like chewing on it.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, they eat plants? And he's like, yeah. So then he like motions, like tells her to go towards the water, and she starts walking, and this big ass monster like jumps out, and then he jumps in front of her. He does like the spin move and like cuts its head off. And then, so earlier in the movie, she brings up the concept of using somebody as bait.
Yeah.
So then the monster jumps up, he cuts its head off. She's on the ground. She's like, oh, why would you do that? And he jumps in front of her. He's like, bait.
Oh my gosh.
You know, so it's kind of like funny.
Yeah.
But what I do appreciate is that they never really communicate.
Yeah.
Because like they wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, definitely.
But I didn't finish it, so I don't know how it ends. But that's as far as I got. And it had some kind of cool moments.
It seems completely ridiculous.
Well, dude, another problem is, like, Pacific Rim is such a dope movie. I think the creatures are just, like, very prominent, and they're cool, and they're original. Mm-hmm. Like, the big monster that was featured in this film in the first, like, hour, it's, like, nondescript. It looks like a lizard or something, but you don't ever even get a good look at it. I mean, even though you see it in full daylight running around, I couldn't even tell you like what the shape of its body was. Like,
that's weird.
Just the way it was filmed, it was like it didn't matter. Like, I don't know, but they had the budget. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's so strange.
But what I would say, there's one really cool part where the dude shoots his like a poison arrow, and it hits the monster right in the eye. Oh. And there was just a couple shots close up of the eye.
Yeah.
That were just really well done and looked. They didn't look real, but they looked like they belonged in that world.
Yeah.
Like I think the monster, like, you know how like I don't know, sometimes in movies like you try to kill a monster and whatever you do to kill it, it just like shrugs it off.
Right. Yep.
So I think it like blinks its eye and the arrow like snaps and the venom just like squirts out. But it looked like it had weight.
Yeah.
Whereas every time it's running around the desert and like burrowing underground, like it had no weight. It just looked like a video game, really.
It's so weird.
Okay. one more story to finish this because I just got reminded of it.
Yeah, what is it?
Back in the day, remember Ready Player One?
Yeah.
That movie?
Yeah.
So when that came out, I had it on like Blu-ray, and I wanted to show it to my friend. Actually, Kevin, who does the music.
Oh, yeah.
And he's a gamer like me, and I just figured he would like it. So I brought it over, and we sat down to watch it, and turned it on, and like the beginning is like very CGI heavy.
Yeah.
And then somebody came through. It's a long story. Somebody came to his house, and we weren't even at his house. It's a long story. We were at where he worked.
Okay.
And a coworker came.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, what's this video game?"
Oh.
And he was like, "Oh, it's actually a movie." What's the movie called? Ready Player One. He's like, "Sure, it's not a video game." It was just so funny to be like, "Oh, it's a movie. What's it called? Ready Player One." That's a video game.
That's awesome.
It was pretty funny. All right, so let's wrap this bad boy up.
Yeah.
Okay, so we already talked about Earthlight, blah, blah, blah. All I want to say is, if you're listening to this, you should totally tune in to the next episode because we're talking about the city and the stars.
Is that the one I'm reading?
Yes.
Okay.
It's really, really... Actually, I don't remember really the quality, but I remember the concept being very, very interesting.
Oh, cool.
And very, very different from everything else Clarke has ever written.
Don't tell me
Okay.
about it.
I won't. But we're also going to be including a film. I'm not even going to say what film. A film that you wouldn't think is sci-fi, you wouldn't think could ever even remotely connect to Arthur C. Clarke, but it does. And since I'm not in school anymore and I have no reason to write essays, I'll just do a verbal essay when we do that. When we do this, I'm sure you'll see the connections too.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun.
Nice.
If you're listening to this and you haven't done it already, you should check out my Instagram, at the Space Dreamers. I love to talk about sci-fi. I've already been on there, like talking to a couple people about sci-fi who just like that I don't know, who either discovered me through Instagram or through the podcast. What else? I have to actually do a thing right now.
What?
That is necessary that I haven't done yet, and I feel bad about it. I just want to give a shout out to Eric Cacciatore, who is the host of another podcast called Restaurant Unstoppable, which is a podcast that I work for. And I have to give a shout out to Eric because everything I know about podcasting, I know from him.
Yeah.
So, like, basically this podcast would not exist if I didn't work for Eric or know Eric.
Yeah.
So huge shout out to him. Probably like the biggest thank you. Like, even though you're giving me your time and reading these books, like, like there would be no Space Dreamers without him. So shout out to Eric. And if you're listening to this and you love sci-fi and you also happen to be a restaurant professional, then head over to restaurantunstoppable.com. No, I'm just kidding. I'll do it. That's what he says. So you should listen to Restaurant Unstoppable if you're a restaurant professional. But anyway, Eric's the man. Thank you, Eric, for teaching me everything I know about podcasting. What else?
Well, thank you, Eric. This is really fun.
Yeah.
I enjoy doing this with you.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Like I said, tune in next time. The City and the Stars. And the next one after that is the Deep Range. So now, dude, we're beyond these light ones like Earthlight, Prelude to Space, Sands of Mars, Islands in the Sky. We're beyond that now. We're into the deep, trying to get to the heart of the galaxy and the heart of the human soul type shit.
Awesome.
So, yeah, join us next time. The City and the Stars. All right. Bye-bye. Multipass. Wait, you want to hear my impression of Chris Tucker in
100% I do. Yes.
Corbett, my man, I had no fire. I had no matches. I had no fire. Corbett, I had no matches. I had no fire. Tell me, my man, are you nervous in the service? Not really.
I love that movie so much.
It's amazing.
I need to watch it again.
What's your favorite line from that movie? Multipass.
I'm not good at recalling lines.
No?
No. I just love, the part that I love is, my favorite part is when he's taking him on the little tour because he wins the thing and he's taking him on the tour
Yeah.
and he's just like talking so fast. I love that part.
Yeah. His outfits are probably the best part, too.
Oh, I love the outfits. I love everybody's outfit.
Yeah. All right. Fucking, we'll leave it off on that note. Thank you for listening. Go watch The Fifth Element if you haven't ever seen it. It's incredible. And, yeah. See you next time. Peace. All right, Space Dreamers, that's another episode in the can. Clarke's fifth novel, Earthlight. It's a good novel. Clarke doesn't write any bad novels. He makes a couple of mistakes, a couple of low points, but that's okay. It's a pretty good novel. It's just weird to go from, you know, the more dull, the more mundane stuff of the first three novels. Then you hit Childhood's End, and it's this fucking epic, philosophical, mind-blowing meditation on humanity and where we're headed. And then we revert back to just kicking it on the moon. I do appreciate the spies. I appreciate, you know, mixing it up. A little espionage, a little mystery, a little intrigue in this Clarke novel. But overall, I prefer the heady stuff. So, next episode is another novel that fits a little weirdly in the Arthur C. Clarke bibliography. It is The City and the Stars, which is a revamp of what I guess you would consider his first novel, Against the Fall of Night, which he retooled and turned into The City and the Stars. And it was released as The City and the Stars after Earthlight. So that's why in the chronology of this whole situation with this podcast, it's coming next. Real quick, I do need to thank some people, because this is completely and totally not a solo effort. First of all, I have to thank my gracious co-host, Amy, for joining me today, for reading the book, which it appears she maybe perhaps did not like, but also for listening to me rave my mad ravings about Fifth Element. I also have to thank my man, Kevin Lesage, for making all of the music you hear in this podcast, including the music that you hear right now. He fucking kills it every episode. Who else? A lot of other people. Thank you to my sister Heather for performing my ads. And last but not least, the man, the one, the only, Quinlan Orleans Alexander Akins, who does my voiceovers with passion and drive and emotion. It's quite a sight to behold when you're there in the same room while he reads those passages. My goodness. Thank you, Q. You are the man. Okay, what else? Oh yeah, if you feel like it, go on Instagram and follow me over there. My name is The Space Dreamers, THESPACEDREAMERS. The Space Dreamers on Instagram. I post all kinds of shit about Arthur C. Clarke, about science fiction, about everything, whatever I'm talking about on the podcast, I'm posting about it, I'm talking about it. So go over to Instagram, fucking DM me, let's talk about science fiction, whatever you want to talk about. Hit me up, dude. You want to be a guest on the show? Just hit me up. You could be a guest on the show. We can talk about whatever the heck you want to talk about. You want to talk about fantasy? I'll take a bullet and I'll talk about fantasy with you. Okay. What else? Honestly, I guess that's it. Please tune in next time. We're talking about The City and the Stars. It's a pretty good novel. It's a weird one. You know, it's not really hard science fiction. It's not really similar to Childhood's End, really, either. It's kind of its own thing in the Clarke bibliography. But anyway, I'm talking way too much. You just sat through like an hour and 45 minutes of me talking, and now I'm still talking. So actually, this time we're doing a fun thing here. I'm going to include some bloopers. So I'm going to leave you off on some bloopers while we were recording the fake ads. So thank you so much for joining me. I cannot thank you enough. If I don't know you, then there's someone that you don't know who loves you and thanks you, and that's me. yeah, join me next time. And just be a good person. That's another thing we could all do. Yeah. Leave me a 5-star review. Follow me on Instagram. That's it. All right. Let's hear some bloopers. Thank you so much. Peace out. Love you.
All right, go for it.
You want me
It's
to do
recording.
it? Okay.
Ow, I'm getting stabbed.
Knitting needles. I haven't even practiced.
Just practice.
All right. Astro Hygiene has developed a new means of taming your mane while working in 0G. Don't want to shave your head? Sick of all that hair in your face? Get the Astro Hygiene magnet. Damn.
Let's try again. Wait, I'm going to ad-lib some shit for the background, too. We should just keep rolling.
Okay. All right. Do you want me to stop when you're adding things?
Just go, man.
Okay.
Just go. We'll see how it
Astro
goes.
Hygiene.
Sorry.
Okay. Astro Hygiene has. You can't play with shit while I'm doing it. All right. I think we need to stop this. Okay. Okay. Astro Hygiene has developed a new means of taming your mane while working in 0G. Don't want to shave your head?
Fuck no.
Come on. Jared.
Sorry. I missed my cue.
I don't think you should say that in the ad. It's inappropriate. All right.
Maybe I won't ad-lib. Just hit it.
Okay. Buy now and take your pets with you on your Astro adventures. Head over to our website to see video footage of the first ever dog to play fetch on the moon. It's the cutest darn thing in the solar system. Man is leaving Earth for the stars. Don't leave man's best friends behind.
Did you say ass adventures? I'm just kidding.
Oh, I don't know. I was like, maybe.
Leave your dog at home for that.